It's a worldwide known fact that Indian people like to speak a lot, more than any other nation I've come across. So it means that we're already about half an hour behind. So I thought, if you like, rather than tackle the subject at all, I could just spend the next 20 minutes or so describing some of the reasons why England are going to beat India in the cricket. I'm happy to take questions about that, but should we do that? Let's have a show of hands who thinks England are going to beat India at cricket. Mike, well done. Yes. The Agency of the Year in 2016, well, you know, who knows? I think if we assumed we're in 2016 now, then, and looking back, then one thing is for sure, I think, which is that the Agency of the Year in 2016 will have realised that the two main drivers of change in the 5 years between now and then would still have been technology and geography. Technology, the rapid move to digital, and geography, of course, being the move of the marketing dollars from the north and the west to the east and the south. Now, given that we're in a part of the world where you know a lot about the geographical part of the mix, let's concentrate on the technology. So no conference session like this really exists now without lots of kind of random facts about the growth of digital media. And I think it's important to go through a few more, actually, not to bore you with more, but because it is, as Nitin said, it is so fundamental that it is worth reminding ourselves, you know, every day about some of the kind of tectonic shifts that are going on. So here are some of my random facts. Today, the web doubles in size every 4 months. Just let these sink in slowly as we go through them. The amount of unique new information doubles every 2 years, and by 2014, the amount of unique new information will double every 72 hours. According to George Gilder, who's a futurologist that we follow, we took 1997 as a start point for this because that was the year that we started our agency. Okay, so in the years since 1997, the amount of recorded information has grown 20 times more than all of the information that had been recorded since the birth of mankind up to the year of 1997. Let that sink in. Again, it's extraordinary. I mean, I think the point of this is that the reality of the digital age is kind of outpacing the fiction of it. Here's a picture of the Congressional Library in Washington. It's a big library, right? Well, last year, the amount of new data that was stored on the internet would have filled 60,000 similar libraries. The world's 4 billion mobile phone users, by the way, 12% of whom own smartphones now, have turned themselves basically into new data streams. YouTube claims to have received 24 hours of video every minute. Manufacturers, and I find this is fascinating, this one, manufacturers have embedded this year up till now 30 million sensors into their products. So think about that. They basically converted mute bits of metal into data-generating nodes. The number of smartphones is increasing by 20% a year, but the number of sensors that are being implanted into products is growing by 30% a year. Sites that didn't exist a few years ago, like YouTube and Flickr, are drawing billions of page views. Now so think about this, digital music and video downloads are fundamentally changing the music and movie industries. They're changing whole industries, not just our own media habits. So today, scarcity has been replaced by a kind of unimaginable surplus, and the internet has radically altered consumer behaviour, including how and when and where they consume content. I got home last Friday night from work, and I walked into our living room at home. My youngest daughter, I've got 3 daughters, my youngest one, who's 16, was sitting there, and she was on the telephone, she had a Facebook page open on her mobile phone, she was watching a soap opera which she had downloaded and reading a magazine. I mean, I personally find it difficult to read one book, and, you know, she had 4 media going live at the same time. It's fundamentally altered the way, and I think to Nitin's point, it's quite accurate that it's a generational thing. People of my age, shall we say, find it quite difficult to kind of understand and appreciate that, but it's true. Here's a few more quick facts. This will happen in India. We referred to the UK before. The internet absolutely plays a crucial part in the buying process now. 70% of UK consumers research online before making a purchase. And what about India? Our belief is that 20% growth per annum, because it is still an extremely fast-growing market here. We believe that by the year 2016, there'll be more users online here than there will be in the United States. We believe that mobile is growing quickest in this market than anywhere else in the world, and that by 2016 it will almost be catching up with China. But, and this is a big but, and Nitin referred to it, it's still very low as a proportion of total ad spend compared to other markets. 4% was his reference point against a global average which is approaching 20. And this is probably related to that, actually very little time spent online. India has, of all the major markets in the world, the lowest length of time spent online for anybody who is online. So if you're in the digital business in this room, you're probably thinking, wow, lots of growth there. If you're in the analog business in this room, if you're a TV broadcaster or a newspaper publisher, you might be thinking, well, we can find a way of keeping those metrics down. I mean, my own view is the one that Nitin gave us, which is that it's only going to go one way, and that the direction of change is easy to predict. The pace of change is just much more difficult. So what does it all mean for agencies? Well, the first thing it means is that it brings us a different kind of competitor, in a way. For example, loads and loads of consultancies, whether they're big global consultancies or whether they're small local consultancies, are kind of getting into this digital space. By and large, these consultancies are happy to concede that agencies such as mine or Mike's are very good and should concentrate on execution. But what they're doing is they're attacking our clients basically through the CEOs. And this was implicit in my question to Nitin about procurement, because the CEOs often are quite suspicious, actually, of the relationship between the CMO or the marketing department and their agencies. And the CEOs tend to have more of a thirst for knowledge outside of that relationship between marketing director and agency director. They're questioning it, and the reason why they're questioning it is because the cost of raw materials and the sort of vice-like grip that retailers are getting on them means that they haven't got anywhere else to turn to get their margin apart from their marketing dollar or rupee. And that tends to put the pressure on the media, which tends to bring in the procurement consultants. And that's a difficult situation for us as agencies, because if we do allow ourselves to get crushed down like that, then we will not be able to afford the talent, which I referred to in my question, and we will become commoditized as a sort of transactional business, while consultancy and boutiques take over in the strategic realm. So my bet is that the Agency of the Year in 2016 would have proven their worth so much to the clients that the procurement departments and the consultancies will recede. So going back to the future, one relevant question, I think, is it even worth trying to predict? A couple of quotes I picked up on here. One was from Goldman, this is a guy who studied the Hollywood business, and his conclusion at the end of a long book was he studied every movie that had been released over 70 years, and that's an awful lot of data, right? And yet, can anybody predict whether next week's movie is going to be a success based on 70 years actual data? Well, the answer is no. There's this guy, Nicholas Taleb, you might have read his book called The Black Swan. What he did was, again, referring back to what Nitin said, was he criticised society's obsession with predicting a future that cannot be predicted based on the past. He called it the mental disease of tunnelling, i.e. trying to project the future as if it was some kind of simplified version of the past, therefore ignoring the kind of game-changing things that come along unexpectedly, like the iPad, like Facebook, like Twitter. Because those are not things which gradually change your business. Those are fundamental, profound changes which you cannot predict. No one in this room can predict the thing that's out there, or will be out there, in 2 years' time, and certainly not in 2016, which will affect all of our lives and all of our business lives. That was his key point, that the role of these kind of high-impact, hard-to-predict, rare events represent revolution, not evolution. His conclusion was, it ain't worth trying to guess. Trouble is, if you're running a company, if you're running an agency, you have to kind of guess because you have to make some plans. So, to try and make sense of all this, we have to make some guesses. And for us and for a lot of other agencies in the business, the way we try and sort of simplify this, and I'll skip through this quickly because I think you probably know all this, is to try and get all this chaos and make it into some ordered form, which we now call paid, owned, and earned media. I think you probably are all familiar with this. And, one thing about this new kind of ecosystem is that it's not intended at all to exclude offline, and nor should it. Because I think this is perhaps not a universally accepted point, but it's a point that we believe, which is that to describe these things as new media is no longer relevant. They're not new. They're not new anymore. It's all media. So when we talk about new media and digital as being special, well, it's special in the sense that it's different, but only if it's integrated. So our general belief is that what used to be called new media is now, in fact, media, and the agencies that will succeed, and certainly, in my view, the agency of the year in 2016, will have realized that these media have to be all integrated together. I mean, I'm sure it's true in India, it's certainly true in the United States, that when we look at our research, we know that the biggest spike that we get in online searches is when our television commercial is running. The most talked about thing, or things, on Facebook are TV programs. So kind of what's the difference? The difference is that although it might all be connected up by digital, the fact is that therefore agencies have to take on a new kind of role. Now, ultimately, brands will need agencies who can help them manage this entire ecosystem to generate the returns. But to be clear, there will continue to be as many different types of agencies and entities, some including here consumers, clients, media owners, technology providers, blah, 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 who will also play a part in the ecosystem. It's my belief that no single agency will do everything. However, and this is the key to it, our view is that clients will need one, or at least one, probably one, agency who can manage and partner and procure and optimize the collective talent of all of those other agencies and providers to kind of optimize the future. And my belief, our belief, is that media agencies in general are best placed to take on that particular role. To do that, I've boiled it down to the fact that we need to have 7 key attributes to get there. The first one is data. Underpinning this new ecosystem is data. In fact, more data, far more data than ever before, and at levels of kind of granularity that only actually exist on the internet. Social networks have dramatically expanded our real-time data trail. On average, in the West, and certainly in India to come, we pass over 3,000 pieces of personal information into databases every single week. Almost all of them unknowingly, but over 3,000 pieces of data about you go into a database every week. So our future agency, the agency of the year in 2016, will have to have the ability to quickly collect and manipulate and analyze and act on this kind of data across all sorts of devices, whether search data from TV, viral data from mobile, or buzz levels on the PC. And importantly, all of this data will need real-time analysis and action. It's not about end-of-month reports. It's not just about optimization. We also believe that tracking on the buzz and search data can provide marketers with instantaneous insight into consumer trends and views about their brands, their competitors, and their products. And we've all had to invest in tools to get around that. It's crucial. So data first. The second one is innovation. Now, there's a trend